Welcome to Sara Gonzales Unfiltered. I am so glad that today is Friday, and it's going to be an interesting weekend. I don't know how many of you. I hope that I'll see some of you guys in Arizona, where I will be on Sunday for Charlie Kirk's memorial. But as we are still, of course, reeling from, it wasn't enough that one of the most inspirational voices in our movement was assassinated in broad daylight. Now we have to deal with, of course, the disgusting people, both regular people and those in Congress, just desecrating his memory. And it's just really disgusting. And so you would expect, of course, that we're calling them the shitbag squad. They're at it again. I regret to inform you that the shitbag squad is at it again. And you've got Ilhan Omar, the brother lover, Ilhan Omar, who decided that now would be the time to start spewing out a bunch of hateful, disgusting rhetoric about Charlie Kirk.
I do believe those of you who are interested in rewriting this hateful man's history are full of shit.
Thank you.
Okay. Those of you who are interested in rewriting history on who this hateful man was are full of shit. I don't know. I think you're the one that's full of shit, Ilhan, because you guys have to keep misrepresenting the things that he said to try to paint him as some sort of hateful person. In fact, later on in the show, I'm going to clear up some of this nonsense, some of the misconceptions about what Charlie Kirk actually said. And we're going to show just how you guys are twisting words as usual to try to paint him and the rest of us, of course, as fascists and bigots. We'll get to that. Okay? We're going to be myth busting today, later on in the show. So you've got Ilhan Omar and her disgusting rhetoric about Charlie Kirk. And you know what? President Trump himself had something to say about Ilhan Omar after her disgusting comments from Air Force One.
I think she should be impeached. I think she's terrible. Is she originally from Somalia? Yes, sir. So how are they doing this? How's their government? Do they have a president? Do they have a council? Do they have anything? Do they have police? I love these people that come from a place with nothing, no anything, and then they tell us how to run our country. No, I think if she got censured, that's great. If she got impeached, that's even better. They impeached me twice for nothing. Mm-hmm. And they impeached me knowing the Republicans are on my side, so they knew it was just that they impeached me. She should be impeached, and it should happen fast.
He also, hey, you know what? Show me the lie. I mean, she comes to this country so ungrateful. She claims to be representing Somalia's interests. Like, show me the lie. She should not have access to Congress. She should not have access to, national security secrets. She should not have access to any of this. He doubled down on Truth Social. Ilhan Omar's country of Somalia is plagued by a lack of central government control, persistent poverty, hunger, resurgent terrorism, piracy, and I don't think he means burning unauthorized DVDs. Okay? Decades of civil war, corruption, and pervasive violence. 70% of the population lives in extreme poverty and widespread food insecurity. Somalia is consistently ranked among the world's most corrupt countries, including bribery, embezzlement, and a dysfunctional government. All of this, and Ilhan Omar tells us how to run America. P.S. This is the best. P.S. Wasn't she the one that married her brother in order to gain citizenship? What scum we have in our country telling us what to do and how to do it. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Make America great again. I mean, show me the lie. I don't know. I'm not in charge of like making the nation's laws, so I don't know exactly how I would craft this. But I do think, I've said this before, I do think that it was a misstep for our founding fathers to not make it clear that we should not have foreigners coming in, making their way to Congress, and then lecturing us on how our country is supposed to be. I think that especially if you pledge your allegiance to another country, you should be expelled from, like, that shouldn't be controversial. You just shouldn't be in Congress. Now, I could go a step further. I mean, we could say just go back to Somalia. I'm being generous. I am being benevolent. Okay? I'm not saying you need to be deported yet. I'm just saying I don't think that you should be in Congress. I don't think that you should be representing Americans if you have allegiance to another country. Now, I also don't think that you should be representing constituents. I found this a peculiar post. If you're potentially involved in some sort of criminal ring, because President Trump also added, sometimes he posts this stuff and I'm like, does Donald Trump know something that he's about to tell us and he's hinting at it? He posted about a Medicaid fraud scheme uncovered in Ilhan Omar's home state of Minnesota with a whole bunch of like Muslim sounding names. Obviously, you can read them there. And he's like, does Ilhan Omar know these people? Are they from her wonderfully managed home country of Somalia? And I mean, they are, as our friend Logan Hall likes to say, they do appear to be Star Wars names. So you got to wonder, like, has he already looked into this? Are we about to see something go down with Ilhan Omar? And so you see this, there's more of a push for this woman to have some sort of repercussions for what she's doing, for what she's saying. For her hateful rhetoric, for the way that she tries to represent Americans. And you had Nancy Mace. She tried to have her censured this week. That was blocked by one vote. But I will just say, Laura Loomer tweeted this out. President Trump just called out Ilhan Omar for marrying her brother. President Trump can permanently have Omar removed from Congress by designating the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization. That's how you get rid of Omar and Tlaib, because they have taken money from, she writes MB, of course, that's the Muslim Brotherhood. And you know what? I think we should, I'm 100% for that. There is a bill that was introduced by Nancy Mace as well, which, listen, I have my own personal gripes with Nancy Mace, but I can't argue that designating the group, the bill would designate the Muslim Brotherhood as a terror organization. I have absolutely no problem with that. That should 100% happen. Ilhan Omar has had, for a very long time, there's been talk of Ilhan Omar having links to the Muslim Brotherhood. And she also, let's not forget, that when we were talking about, she was discussing what happened on September 11th, she minimized it and downgraded it to this.
Ilhan Omar under fire again after telling the Council on American Islamic Relations, known as CAIR, that the worst terror attack on American soil was, quote, some people did something.
CAIR was founded after 9/11. Because they recognized that some people did something and that all of us were starting to lose access to our civil liberties.
I just can't take it. Like, I just can't take it. Some people did something. Some people did something. That's what Ilhan Omar thinks about 9/11. But she's going to come to my country. She's going to come from her shithole country to my country and come lecture me on what America is supposed to be, and come lecture me and tell me that a guy that I knew, who was one of the kindest men that I have ever seen out in, you can roll the tapes. You can just see it. He speaks with people he disagrees with. He is kind. He is civil. He wants to speak to the other side, which is more than I want. I can't stand any of you. And so this woman wants to stand on her little bully pulpit and tell everyone that Charlie Kirk was a hateful person and anyone who says otherwise is full of shit. You. I'm so sick of this. Go back to Somalia. If you don't believe in the ability for Charlie Kirk to go and have a civil conversation with other people, to literally give them a microphone. Remember, they don't have to come up and talk to him. They choose to talk to him. They choose to have the interaction. He wants to have a conversation. And you're going to come in here and tell me that 3,000 Americans dying in a terror attack was some people did some things, but you want to go and talk about Charlie Kirk, an American Charlie Kirk, an American hero, Charlie Kirk, an American Christian hero, Charlie Kirk. Go back to Somalia. I'm just done. By the way, the group that she was speaking with when she said some people did some things, that was they mentioned at CARE, the Council of Islamic Relations. They do also have ties to the Muslim Brotherhood and Hamas. These are just not good people. It's just a bad idea to take someone who has all of these ties, who has all of these familial ties with this shithole corrupt country and be like, come here and learn all of our country's secrets. That's dumb. It shouldn't happen. And then, speaking of Minnesota, there's bonehead Tim Walz, fancy pants Tim Walz, who went on air. And he's really upset. Something really hurts his feelings. Now, it's not the assassination of an innocent man in broad daylight. No, that doesn't hurt his feelings at all. It hurts his feelings that people have, a bad taste in their mouth about what Ilhan Omar said. And now you're going to hear Tim Walz gaslight all of you to tell you that you're the one who's somehow, inciting violence, I guess.
You don't have to agree with Ilhan Omar. She's representing her people. She's voted in. She's a citizen. She's doing good work. She didn't do anything on this to Donald Trump other than she disagrees with his horrific policies, just like I do. But we all know why he's going after her, because she's a Muslim woman, and that's just what he does. And he tries to stir up hate. Look, this is all part of the plan, but it's horrific. And you can be certain when Donald Trump puts that out, Congresswoman Omar and her family are put at risk. So we're talking about this political violence thing. We have got to get back to the decency. This just in. Man who just 2 weeks ago was making jokes about checking his phone and remember, we're just looking for Donald Trump's dead. Man who just said he wanted Donald Trump, the president of the United States, to be dead. In public, he said that. Now wants to lecture me on decency. Seriously, you. I am so done with these people. Because Donald Trump having an opinion about this woman who comes to our country and says the stuff that she says, he has an opinion on that, and now you're going to call that political violence. But we are actually getting killed. It is so disgusting, okay? So let's talk about decency. Timmy, can I call you Timmy? Let's talk about some decency, Timmy, okay? Here is Rashida Tlaib, another member of the shitbag squad, talking about President Trump cleaning up the streets. Remember, he's helping crime go down. The crime in D.C. has gone way down since President Trump has decided, you guys are doing a crappy job and we're going to bring in the National Guard as a presence so that the people of D.C. feel safe. Well, here's what Rashida Tlaib has to say about that.
And I think it's really important. We need to stand up against this fascist takeover. That's not a bad word. It's a fact. And here in D.C. and across the country, it is so incredibly important, Mr. Chair, that this committee does not allow rhetoric that defames or paints Washington, D.C. in a way that you all haven't really truly seen.
It's not a bad word. It's just a fact. It's just a fact that President Trump is a fascist and a dictator and literally Hitler. It's just a fact. according to Rashida Tlaib. Now, where are her facts? I'm not entirely sure. So, DC, now cleaner, now less crime. You're a fascist if you do that. I mean, make it make sense. You can't. But I'm going to show you the rest of that exchange. Now, guard your eardrums, because this woman is, listen, you can tell that they're losing, and they know that they're losing, because this woman is unhinged. I would gather to say, I don't know, mentally ill. Like, she needs to go talk to someone, and quick, because this woman is not well, and she is actually serving in Congress, and that is very scary. Here is Rashida Tlaib and Byron Donalds, and this exchange is just, it's extraordinary.
I think it's really important.
Well, the gentlelady
No, I don't yield. I don't even have time. I can tell you,
your time's expired.
It is expired.
She doesn't want a question.
But you all
she doesn't
live
want to
here,
talk to
and
anyone.
you're not
She doesn't
telling
want to
people
have
the
back and
beautiful
forth.
parts that you do see in our nation's
Tlaib.
capital. And no, it's just wrong how we're doing it.
Chairman, I think it's insane that the gentlelady doesn't have an argument, but she's going to refer to me and some of my colleagues.
Mr. Donald.
We were from the Third Reich. This is
You're gonna
insane.
look at 14,
It's insane.
15-year-olds as
It's
a bunch of
insane.
criminals?
It's insane.
Oh,
Do I look like a
you're
member of the Third Reich to you, Miss Tlaib? Is that what I look like to you?
You're the one taking your voting card.
Is that what you think? Is that what you think? Is that what you think?
No, that's unethical.
I think it's radical and I think it's insane. And I'll respect everything that you say. But to say something like that to myself and a lot of my colleagues is way out of line. It's way out of line. It's way out of line.
Regular order, Mr.
Way out of line.
Regular order.
That's okay. But it's okay, right?
That is not how it
It's
goes.
okay, right?
You hold yourself accountable before you talk about
Hold
Washington,
myself
D.C.
accountable.
Mr. Tlaib.
Hold your own self accountable. How about that? Hold your own
I'm
self
trying,
accountable.
Mr.
How about
Tlaib.
that?
Free D.C. and make sure you vote with your own voting card. Don't be giving it to somebody
Mr.
else.
Tlaib.
Like, what an embarrassment. What an absolute embarrassment. I just, honest to God, guys, I know I get heat for this all the time when I'm like, I know a woman should not be president. Do you know why I say that? Because that right there, and I know you could tell me, well, that's just a Democrat. Well, that's just because, liberal women are mentally ill. And all that is true. I agree. But like, you see that and it's just, what a poor representation of a woman. Compose yourself. Be professional. She's literally screaming in that shrill voice at Byron Donalds after she just called us fascists. These are not good people, and there will be no unity. These are not good people, and there will be no. Do you want to unify with that? I don't. They want to shove all of these nicknames down our throats and then call for unity. Absolutely not. Also, if that wasn't bad enough, the House put forward a resolution to honor the life and legacy of course, Charlie. And the resolution condemns the assassination and all forms of political violence and honors the life, leadership, and legacy of Charlie. Should not be controversial. Well, it was, apparently, because 58 Democrats voted against that. 58 Democrats voted against saying, hey, assassination is wrong. All forms of political violence are wrong. And we should honor the life and the leadership that he had, even if you disagree with his opinions. Which I hope Republicans, I'm going to play this clip of Dingbat AOC in just a second, but I hope that this reminds Republicans next time, God forbid, the Democrats ever get back into power, just remember, like they will expect you to continue in a bipartisan way. They will never do that for you. Ever, ever, ever. So remember that. Next time they have their, administration officials appointees that they want to come in and you have to vote for them and they expect you to well, this is always what we do. We always vote. We always come together in a bipartisan way to vote for certain things and we should all agree on this. Absolutely not.
They will never, you have one of your own assassinated by one of theirs in broad daylight, and they still will not come to the table. Don't ever do that for them again. This is what Dingbat AOC had to say.
We should be clear about who Charlie Kirk was. His rhetoric and beliefs were ignorant, uneducated, and sought to disenfranchise millions of Americans. Far from the working tirelessly to promote unity, unquote, asserted by the majority in this resolution.
This bitch was serving up like Jack and Cokes 10 years ago, and she's going to talk about Charlie Kirk being uneducated. Like I just can't. I just can't. I'm just done with these people. But you know what? There is one thing that I am so happy about. I am so ecstatic about, which is that the masks are off. The masks are off at a time where the entire country, the average American, is horrified by everything that they've seen, is horrified by the fact that Charlie Kirk would be innocently sitting ready to have a conversation with those who disagree with him and just be picked off like that, publicly executed in front of the entire world. Everyone else is horrified. These sociopaths in Congress, these Democrat sociopaths are the only ones, and in Hollywood and in all these other industries that they've taken over, but these sociopaths are the only ones who say this stuff. The rest of America is hearing you guys. And they don't like it. They don't like it at all. And you know what? I am so glad. Thank you. Because as Maya Angelou said, when someone shows you who they really are, believe them. And you know what? I believe you. All right. We've got to thank our sponsor here, Patriot Mobile. Thank you so much to Patriot Mobile for always being on the front lines. Anytime there is any sort of, Republican conservative event from local to federal, they know the importance of making sure we have conservative leadership, and they're putting their money where their mouth is. And they are sponsoring and supporting all of them. They were there at Texas Gun Rights when I was there over the weekend at their event. I mean, they are everywhere. And I'm just telling you guys, if you support what I do, you need to go check out Patriot Mobile. They're America's only Christian conservative wireless provider. And if you're not with them yet, you're actually funding the left, because all these other big mobile companies, they're funding all of these things that you are fighting against. Patriot Mobile, they are doing the opposite. They're supporting causes that you support as well. So go check them out. All I'm saying is, if you go to this link that I'm about to give you, you're probably going to save money too. So just go see how much it can cost you. All right. They've got unlimited data plans, you can customize it however you want. So make sure, check them out, patriotmobile.com/Sarah, or use promo code Sarah for a free month of service. You can call 972-PATRIOT, but no one uses a phone for its original intended use. So patriotmobile.com/Sarah, promo code Sarah. Newsflash, apparently the world is ending because the new vaccine panel, the CDC's vaccine panel, is advising against the combo vaccine for MMRV for kids under 4. Let me tell you what that means, okay? They're just saying, you notice MMRV, what's the V? Well, it's chickenpox, the chickenpox vaccine, the varicella. They're just saying, hey, instead of getting a combo vaccine that includes measles, mumps, rubella, and varicella, you should just not do the combo. You should get the chickenpox. I'm just going to call it chickenpox. The chickenpox vaccine separate. That's all it's saying. And these people cannot handle it. And I just wanted just to remind you guys, RFK Jr. not taking vaccines away. They just want to make sure that our children are receiving shots that are safe. So I would just like to shout out RFK. Thank you so much, RFK, for keeping America's children as safe as possible. They're also going to look at the hepatitis vaccine. And I just want to say, just like with COVID vaccines, there's new evidence that they caused us more harm than good. And the truth was covered up. Up next, I have a conversation with Dr. Peter McCullough about these new findings and how the vaccines have been linked to the deaths of at least 25 children. You're not going to want to miss this one. But first, I want to thank our sponsor, Kindred Harvest. So here's the thing. I love tea.
If you love tea and you buy tea at the grocery store, you're buying, speaking of MAHA, Make America Healthy Again, you're buying tea with microplastics and heavy metals and toxins, because what you're not realizing is that most of your tea is made from China. They don't care about your body. They don't care about your health. Neither does Big Pharma. The sicker you are, the better for them, the more money they make. That is why I'm telling you guys, go purchase Kindred Harvest. This is real all-natural tea. It's blended and packed right here in the United States. They don't have any of the microplastics or heavy metals, and they're all third-party lab tested, so you know that it's safe. 100% biodegradable, heat-sealed, glue-free, ink-free. It is like the cleanest tea you could possibly have. They've got so many amazing flavors. I just had the cinnamon apple the other day, and I was like, God, this is the best tea ever. So don't put your family's health in the hands of China. Go to kindredharvest.co and use code Sarah for 20% off. That's kindredharvest.co, promo code Sarah. Just wondering, do you guys remember that time when they rushed here in this country and several others to put out a vaccine with questionable tests, rushed test, and injected those vaccines into millions of Americans during COVID, not just once, but over and over and over again? Well, it turns out, you're going to be shocked to hear, that might not have been a very good idea, because there's new research out. Alarm bells, genetic fingerprint of COVID vaccine found in 31-year-old cancer patients' DNA. This is a new preprint study. The subheader says, presents the first direct evidence that the genetic material from mRNA COVID-19 vaccines can integrate into the human genome, potentially triggering aggressive cancers, according to the authors. And, you know, as much as we were told by the medical industrial complex that this could not alter your DNA, this can't carry any harmful DNA fragments, there's no danger, just make sure that you take it over and over and over again. Turns out, once again, they were wrong. Joining me now is Dr. Peter McCullough. He is my favorite doctor, but also the author of Vaccines, Mythology, Ideology, and Reality. I highly encourage you guys to go check this out. Dr. McCullough, what say you of this? I mean, I'm sure you're not shocked to hear any of this, because I sat with you just over there several years ago talking about this very subject. And you were trying to sound the alarm. I was trying to sound the alarm. I wasn't the credible one, though. You were trying to sound the alarm as a reputable doctor, the world's most published cardiologist, saying, guys, we need to pump the brakes on this. Now we're seeing headlines like this. They told us it was safe and effective.
Greatly disturbing. Originally, Marcus Alden and Yang de Marinis in Malmo, Sweden, showed that Pfizer could integrate into human DNA in a human hepatoma cell line. Now this report, where the code of the synthetic messenger RNA is found for the spike protein, found directly in the human genome of a cancerous cell in a woman in her 30s with, appropriately termed a bladder turbo cancer. Mm-hmm. And this is nearly identical to what Deion Sanders had to play for Dallas Cowboys. So the great concern here is that this synthetic messenger RNA may be oncogenic. And the testing that was skipped was called oncogenicity testing. So it should have been tested in animals to see if it would cause tumors in rats, and it was never done.
Because of the Operation Warp Speed, the fact that we were in a pandemic, that was part of the safety studies that they skipped?
That was part of the excuse, you're right. But, messenger RNA has been in development now for decades. And it's still without basic fundamental testing of pharmacokinetics, pharmacodynamics, genotoxicity, teratogenicity, and oncogenicity. So
I'm going to be honest. I don't know what all those terms meant, but they sound bad.
This is a fundamental safety dossier.
Yes.
So, for instance, pharmacokinetics. No one knows how long this stays in the body. No one knows where it goes in the body. Yeah. We have data on one of my patients here that we're using a research lab in Germany. He unfortunately took 3 shots of Pfizer. He developed heart damage, myocarditis, blood clots, and now 3.2 years later, we're finding Pfizer in his bloodstream and producing the dangerous, potentially lethal spike protein.
Jeez. That is, that's obviously extremely concerning. And then when you add on top of that, the FDA is reviewing reports of COVID vaccine deaths, which, again, this is something that, of course, we were sounding the alarm about at the time. But now, under the direction of, we'll just say, new leadership, okay, they plan to highlight possible links between the shots and accounts of deaths involving children and birth defects. And there are reports upwards of 25 children, my opinion, probably way higher than that, have died. Do you what say you as the expert at the table?
Completely unacceptable. The very first case of autopsy-proven fatal myocarditis in an adult was New England Journal of Medicine in August of 2021. First author is Verma. But Gill and colleagues also published in 2021 two children who died a few days after taking Pfizer, Michigan and in Connecticut. Again, autopsy proven. These single cases that are published in the peer-reviewed literature should have been an immediate removal of the vaccines off the market. Now, 5 years later, they're getting around to studying some deaths in a peer-reviewed study by our FDA. I've had a chance to have a personal conversation with our current new interim CDC director, Jim O'Neill, and I said point blank, we have 19,460 deaths in the U.S. CDC VAERS data. You're way behind, and you need to get a move on. And so he heard it from me personally. Can't be any excuses here.
Sure.
They know.
Yeah. Well, now, I mean, speaking of that, obviously you are one of the most credible people in the country on this. But did you know your Wikipedia, still to this day, the opening paragraph on your Wikipedia page says that you, quote, promoted misinformation and conspiracy theories about COVID-19, its treatments, and mRNA vaccines. And that is just so reprehensible. At what point are they going to finally admit that the people who they labeled the crazy right-wing nut jobs, the people who risked everything, I don't have to tell you that, my friend. I know that you know that. You are one of the only ones. You risked everything, as much as I'm sure you get it, I get it all the time, that you're just in it for the money. And I'm like, boy, let me tell you, if you think that there's money in going against the science, of course I'm using air quotes, you're dead wrong, because there is risk of losing money and losing income when you go against the medical industrial complex. Does it still make you angry that they did all of that they are continuing to label you that to this day?
I look back on it and I wouldn't change a thing. My publication of the most widely employed early treatment protocol for COVID-19 and now publishing the most widely used approach to helping the body recover after the vaccines. Those two McCullough protocols have been credited with saving tens of millions of lives and sparing hundreds of millions of hospitalizations, far more than any vaccine claim could possibly have. I don't regret a thing. My goal is to live long enough to be vindicated. Now, Sir Richard Doyle, now he's been knighted, but when Doyle first presented on smoking causing lung cancer, 1950, and then he proved it in 1954, the British physician smoking study, he was tarred, he was smeared. The tobacco industry went after him. They tried to destroy his career. He lived long enough to be vindicated.
Well, I think that will happen for you, especially with Senator Rand Paul. He is trying to, rustle some feathers over there in the Senate, and he revealed that Anthony Fauci, good friend of the show, Anthony Fauci, was involved in trying to cover up a lot of inconvenient truths during the pandemic. And Senator Rand Paul, he told us this before the election. He is still continuing to tell us this. He is not dropping this with Anthony Fauci. Here's a little bit of him.
What we've discovered is that Anthony Fauci was destroying federal records and was encouraging other people to destroy federal records. That is a crime. He testified to the House a year ago and said he wasn't doing that. That's a crime, to perjure himself. And so we will bring him back. I've asked him to come and testify this fall. If he doesn't come voluntarily, we will subpoena him. The question is he immune because of the pardon? I think that needs to be challenged in court.
Are we going to get justice when it comes to Anthony Fauci, auto pen pardons and all? What do you think?
Yeah, as you know, I've testified multiple times in the Senate myself. A special counsel has to be assigned. I mean, that's just the step that needs to be taken. I think it's likely that Fauci approached Biden in his compromised state, and Fauci requested the 10-year pardon for crimes he knew he committed. The crimes are fraudulent concealment of critical information that we could have used to save lives, and then also mass negligent homicide because his work on suppressing the early therapeutics for COVID-19 and promoting ineffective and dangerous vaccines cost countless lives.
Yeah, I mean, the question is, how do we do that? You point out the 10-year look back is a little strange, right? Because it doesn't just go from the time of COVID through Joe Biden's last day. It goes way earlier than that. But some of these, Rand Paul was talking a lot about the emails. And I don't know, maybe you have some inside information. I'm not sure, but I'm trying to understand where they get him if he did have the blanket pardon. But I do know that there was some perjury issues going on. And there was some, as Rand Paul mentioned there, some, obstruction or concealment or deletion of government emails. So I want to read some of these emails in question. Someone sent, actually, it was Rand Paul's tweet that they sent to Anthony Fauci at the time. And it was a post questioning his response to the pandemic in New York. And it cites Johns Hopkins University. New York's per capita death rate is more than 2 times greater than Italy, Spain, and Britain, and more than 8 times worse than Florida, 10 times worse than Texas. For you to say New York got it done correctly disregards the facts and calls your judgment into question. And so Anthony Fauci's response, as it seemed to be in a lot of different emails here, was basically, he says it, okay, he's full of, I don't want to cuss in front of a esteemed doctor. He's full of SHIT. Mark Meadows curiously had the same response and was upset when I said New York got things right. So then he goes on to say, I don't want to engage anymore with this nonsense. And so please delete this email after you read it. And he seemed to curiously say this a lot. Anthony Fauci seemed very intent on making sure that his coworkers and his employees deleted their emails. I wonder why.
The House Select Committee found instructions that Fauci had given to write in code, so this couldn't be picked up on FOIA requests.
No.
And also many emails that say, listen, let's take this out of email and use the phone. So Fauci understood that the SARS-CoV-2 virus was being created by Dr. Ralph Baric in UNC Chapel Hill, by Dr. Xingling Li, the bat lady there, and it was being coordinated by EcoHealth Alliance, now disbarred Peter Daszak. That's the core group. To this day, Fauci's creation in 2021, published in 2016 in Nature Medicine and Proceedings of National Academy of Sciences, that creation, the genetic code for this, that's public funds that did that, was supposed to be released. And Baric says, well, I'm not going to release it. The NIH told me not to release it because if he releases the genetic code, it's going to match very closely to what came out of the Wuhan lab. So Rand Paul just simply Ralph Baric needs to be on the stand and say, give us the genetic code of your virus. And where was it? It was in UNC Chapel Hill. It was probably in the Rocky Mountain Research Laboratory in Hamilton, Montana. And for sure, it was in Wuhan. We need to know how many more strains of this do they have locked and loaded over there.
Right. Do you know, does Rand Paul have this information? Do you know?
I don't know. I know he's written a book on this. He's worked very hard. I think he's focusing very tightly on Fauci's interaction in Senate testimony. And, when one testifies, you raise your hand, the person testifying is held to the standard of the law. The people asking the question are not. They actually have an immunity. So it's a little bit of a challenge. If you watch the Senate testimony, I've been on the hot seat now, I think 5 times. As a witness, I'm always very careful to make sure I cite the data and to make sure no one could come back and ever say that I committed perjury.
Yeah. So you've got this book, which, again, I want to encourage everyone to go get. Yeah, there it is on the screen. It's vaccines. It says what it's about, but it's all about, you explore really how this has turned into more of a religion than an actual true science when it comes to the topic of whether or not vaccines are both safe and effective, and whether or not they can be attributed to the downfall of all of these, diseases. I know measles, they always cite, that the measles vaccine saved so many lives. But then when you look at the sanitation, it seems to track pretty well. Polio, I should say, is the one that you track with the sanitation. And it's like, oh, it turns out when people started washing their hands and doctors started like washing their hands before they operated on people, and people started washing their hands after they went to the bathroom. And there are all these advancements in health. And it turns out that it tracks downward there.
Polio was actually water treatment, and probably used to be a summer wave as kids went to the beach. So it's just, remember how they used to do testing of the water because sewage was released into the water?
Yeah.
But with the Salk field trials, 1.8 million people were tested with the vaccine or placebo or a control. Do you know how many cases of polio they documented? This is right before the release of the vaccine commercially. Less than 200.
Wow.
So I can tell you right now, a much bigger problem is profound autism. We currently have now 275,000 children in the United States with profound autism, meaning, they can't communicate, they have injurious behavior, head banging, they can't toilet alone, completely disabled the rest of their life. The disablement of young people due to autism is far bigger than polio ever was. We have it all in our book. We've got it down. Vaccines over time came out of a tremendous fear of infectious disease, bold claims made by vaccinologists that could not be scientifically supported, and then a lot of money and a lot of power. You mix that up together and you come up with essentially a false religion.
Well, I have a lot of people who regularly email me or send me a message and ask me, what books should I read? I want to get more educated on vaccines. This is one from someone that I highly, highly trust, and I recommend Vaccines, Mythology, Ideology, and Reality. If you want to know the truth about the medical industrial complex, I want to ask you one last question, Dr. McCullough. Did you ever think, say 10 years ago, that you would be dedicating your time to writing this book?
I never did. I never thought a pandemic would come, but I have to tell you, I must have been the right person at the right time to fill this tremendous void that we've had in medicine and in the integrity of science and the tremendous controversy that we've fallen upon. And I don't think this is over. This is not over. There is now some type of madness that has beset the medical mind. Today, someone just showed me a poster from the National Health Service in the UK, and it shows a baby in the womb inside a man. Yes,
you're kidding.
The National Health Service believes a man can carry a baby. The CDC on its website has instructions about how a man can do breastfeeding.
Oh, no.
The medical community has lost its mind.
Well, I tell the story frequently, and about 2013, 2014, I remember having a conversation with my mom, and I said 50 years from now, they're going to look back on this vaccination program and they are going to be so ashamed because the truth is finally going to come out. I can say with absolute 100% certainty that timeline has been sped up in large part due to all of your great work. And I just appreciate you so much. And I would 100% agree you were the right man at the right time. And I am so grateful to you for dedicating a large part of your life now to sounding the alarm on all of these myths and promoting the reality of this. Dr. Peter McCullough, author of Vaccines, Mythology, Ideology, and Reality. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
As I said earlier, there are a lot of people lying about the things that Charlie Kirk said and stood for and represented. And I showed you earlier how, you've got AOC, you've got Ilhan Omar, you've got the squad trying to twist his words to their own sick narratives. And I see a lot of memes floating around too. But here's the thing. We have the receipts and we have what's called context. Because to make Charlie sound like a hateful person, you'd have to take him out of context. But we have the context. So please share this with any of your friends or any shitbag trolls on the internet who want to misrepresent what Charlie said now that he is not alive to defend himself. Let's start with Stephen King. This one's been going around a lot. He advocated stoning gays to death. Just saying. he was, Charlie was actually criticized. He criticized people for cherry picking Bible verses. He criticized the YouTube star Miss Rachel for citing God's wish for Christians to, quote, love thy neighbor in Leviticus, saying that should include gay people. That's what we hear all the time is just, well, love thy neighbor. Therefore, you should accept all of these things. Therefore, you should allow children to mutilate their body parts because remember, God calls Christians to love thy neighbor. So Charlie was responding to Miss Rachel, said, by the way, Miss Rachel, you might want to crack open that Bible of yours. In a lesser reference, part of the same part of scripture in Leviticus 18 is that thou shalt lay with another man shall be stoned to death. Here's what Charlie actually said about the gay community. I believe marriage is one man, one woman. Also, gay people should be welcome in the conservative movement. As Christians, we are called to love everyone. I will always stand against people who wish to establish their own personal views as a reason to kick others out of our movement. And he had a long history of engaging in a very kind debate or kind conversation with gay people when I'm going to play you a video of Charlie having a back and forth with a gay conservative.
I'm a gay conservative, and I just want to kind of ask you, like, what do you have to say for people like me who kind of feel like, I guess, it's kind of hard for gay conservatives because there's not a lot of us. So, like, what do you have to say to other gay people who need to realize, like, they do have a choice?
Yeah, first of all, welcome to the conservative movement. I don't think you should introduce yourself just based on your sexual attractions.
No, I agree. Because
that's not who you are.
I like to be thought of as a person. And
for sure, you are a complete human being, and I'm sure you treat people well, and you're studying something. So I want to get away with this idea that you're gay anything. I just think that we have gone a long way in the negative direction in this country, where we act as if the most important part of your identity is what you do in the bedroom. It doesn't mean that much to me, but if you ask from a perspective as a Christian, I don't agree with that lifestyle, but politics is about addition and multiplication. I imagine you agree with a lot of what we talk about.
Absolutely.
Right? Strong borders, strong country, and for that, we welcome you into the conservative movement.
Where's the hate that I was promised? Where's the hateful rhetoric? Where's the judging gay people? Where's the, Charlie said gay people should be stoned to death? He just literally welcomed him into his movement. So it's just not true. There was also one going around, Charlie was a fan of the Second Amendment. He got shot to death. Here's what a Syracuse University professor had to say about that. Charlie Kirk said it was worth it to have, quote, a few gun deaths each year so that we can have the Second Amendment. He called those deaths prudent and a rational deal. Him dying this way seems both ironic and in line with his own politics. Now, I want to play for you the real quote from Charlie, which, as you can guess, was, of course, taken out of context.
We need to be very clear that you're not going to get gun deaths to zero. It will not happen. Right. You can significantly reduce them through having more fathers in the home, yes, by having more armed guards in front of schools. Yes. We should have an honest and clear reductionist view of gun violence, but we should not have a utopian one. You will never live in a society when you have an armed citizenry and you won't have a single gun death. That is nonsense. It's drivel. Wow. But I think it's worth it. I think it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights. That is a prudent deal. It is rational.
I promise you that Charlie still believes that right now. I promise you. Because he understands the repercussion of not having an armed society. And he understands that just like with drugs and any other contraband that is sold on the black market these days, because it's not illegal, you can't just make guns illegal, we're going to make murder more illegaler. I realize that's not a word. That's the point. We're going to make murder illegaler and then people will stop doing it. Of course, he understands that. And therefore, he understands the importance of someone having the ability to protect themselves from the bad guy with the gun. Now, let's get to the racist claims. Oh, Charlie Kirk was a racist. Charlie Kirk was a racist. He was against desegregation in the 1964 Civil Rights Act. Okay, let's listen to Charlie on that.
The Civil Rights Act was a mistake. What did you mean by that?
Yeah, so the parts of the Civil Rights Act were great, but the way it's now being implemented to force men in female bathrooms to push forward of the trans agenda, the intent of the Civil Rights Act is way beyond what it was originally authored for.
But the intent specifically originally was to...
Well, that's interesting. So the intent and the law are two different things. So the intent was noble, which was to say that no American can be not allowed into a place of business based on the color of their skin or their ethnic heritage. Totally agreement with that. That's not what the law only did. It created a massive anti-racist DEI army that then gave us affirmative action. For example, recently Merrick Garland sued using the Civil Rights Act, saying that we cannot have voter ID in certain states because it's a violation of the Civil Rights Act. So basically what the Civil Rights Act did is that it went beyond disparate impact and then went to disparate effect. In the sense where if black Americans are not doing as well as white Americans in a certain category, you can now use the Civil Rights Act and say that's a violation of the Civil Rights Act, even though there might be other contributing factors. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's too broad, too wide, and it's now doing a lot of damage to the country. It's being used well beyond its original intent.
Pretty straightforward to me. Doesn't sound like a blatant racist. Really doesn't. Let's listen to more from this very racist Charlie Kirk.
Unfortunately, in the black community, dads are the most absent of any community. About 2/3 of all black youth will be raised without a stable father around. And I know it's crazy, right? And that little precious angel of yours deserves to have a father around.
Oh, no. He called this very cute little black baby a precious angel. Sounds like a terrible racist, right? Now, let's get to the mainstream media. The New York Times told millions of their, well, I don't know if they have millions of readers anymore, actually. They may not have millions of readers, but whoever the hell is still reading that crappy rag told all their readers that Charlie Kirk was anti-Semitic. They claim that Charlie said this: Jewish communities have been pushing the exact kind of hatred against whites that they claim to want people to stop using against them. They said, Charlie Kirk, he said it on his podcast, The Charlie Kirk Show in 2023. Except, he was actually critiquing that quote someone else said. What Charlie actually said before reading it, half of this tweet is true, half of it I don't like. And then the New York Times was they had to issue an apology. A correction was made on September 11th, 2025. An earlier version of this article described incorrectly an anti-Semitic statement that Charlie Kirk had made on an episode of his podcast. He was quoting a statement from a post on social media and went on to critique it. It was not his own statement. I don't think they care because the damage was already done, and you cannot convince me that that was not intentional. New York Times, okay? So please share this with a friend. Share this with a friend who is spewing incorrect rhetoric about Charlie Kirk, knowing that he is not here to defend himself, and make sure they know that all of these are wrong and taken out of context so that they can fuel their hateful agenda. I hope that this helps. We'll see you Monday.